All right, how about that win last night for the Philadelphia Eagles, overcoming 3 turnovers, some early miscues to beat a very good Green Bay Packers team in Brazil. What a game to kick off the 2024 season. And you think about this, if the Eagles can fix some of their issues, and there are a lot to fix, they can be a really dangerous team, especially on the offensive side of the football, because that offensive firepower is legit. You're watching Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope you're all having a great Saturday, enjoying your weekends, and the weekend is made much better with the Philadelphia Eagles win on opening night. Before we begin, just want to say thanks to everybody for tuning into the watch party last night. Almost 300,000 views, the most watched watch party in the history of Eagles Now. We surpassed 81,000 subscribers, already closing in on 82,000. So a terrific night. And if you want Eagles coverage every single day, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Just taking a few moments away from watching college football. A decent slate here today to talk some birds and further recap this win. Why you should not panic about the Eagles. Let's begin there. Think about what Philadelphia survived last night. An interception at their own 5-yard line, plus a fumble at their own 20-yard line, plus an interception in the end zone. Those are 3 massive turnovers. Yet, Philadelphia still put up 34 points and won the game, and they flew 10 hours to Brazil. It is the first game of the season. It was going to be sloppy, and this is why all throughout the preseason, I pleaded with head coach Nick Sirianni to play the offensive starters at least a little bit during the preseason. You have a new offensive system, you have a new center, a new right guard, a new dynamic running back. Jaylen Herz is learning a completely new offensive system, and we saw in the early going of this football game that the Eagles were not ready for regular season play. But if they iron out some of those issues, this Eagles team can light up the scoreboard. They can have one of the most prolific offenses in the National Football League, and they can once again be Super Bowl contenders. Let me now transition to the play of quarterback Jaylen Herz. Look, there's no denying that Herz was all over the map. The interception on the first drive was inexcusable. The second interception in the end zone, across his body, across the field, was inexcusable. For a coach's son and for a player who's entering year 5 and is making more than $200 million, the cardinal rule when you're in the red zone is to not make that throw across your body and across the field. One of the other rules, when you're in the shadows of your own goalpost, deep in your own territory, on a 3rd and long, when the opposition knows that you're most likely going to throw the ball downfield, you do not throw late and over the middle of the field. And that was as easy of an interception as Xavier McKinney will ever have. There was some good, though. The touchdown throw to Saquon Barkley on the wheel route, straight up beautiful. Could not have thrown that football better. Jaylen Herz dropped it right in the bucket. He found a keyhole with that throw. The deep shot to A.J. Brown when he cooked Jair Alexander right in stride. The final drive of the game, some big boy, big time throws and some big plays with his legs as he finally got going in the run game for himself. And Philadelphia being able to embark on a 16-play, 67-yard drive and eat 7:25 off the clock. That was a put your nuts on the table, bully ball, big boy football type of drive to win the ball game and to fly back home to Philadelphia from Brazil happy. You can't tell me that Jaylen Herz stinks as a quarterback because of the highs that we saw last night and the potential that he's shown and the high-level football that he's played in this league. There are very few quarterbacks who stink who are going to be able to pull out that throw to Saquon Barkley on the wheel route. But at the same time, these two things can be true. Jaylen Herz simply can't make those mistakes for a veteran player who's a franchise quarterback. He threw 15 interceptions last year, and we saw more of the same late decisions and bad decisions last night. That is a red flag, and he has to be better in that area. But we also saw what his potential is, especially in Kellen Moore's offense. And how about the pre-snap motion that Kellen Moore was able to utilize last night and the comfort it led to for Jaylen Herz? Keep in mind that last year, and we talked about this all offseason, Philadelphia was 32nd in pre-snap motion, dead last. Herz with motion last night, 15 of 21, 212 yards, 10.1 yards per attempt. That would have led the NFL last year by far, and 2 touchdowns. Jaylen Herz without motion, 5 of 13, 66 yards, 5.1 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, 2 picks. The Eagles did barely any pre-snap motion last year. It was malpractice offensively in today's NFL. And Kellen Moore last night used motion at a 66% rate, the Eagles' highest mark since 2020, and well above their 35% rate from 2023, according to Next Gen Stats. This is why this Eagles team can be so much better than last year. And I don't mean to say that I was right again, but I've talked about all of this on the show, how I think a big reason why Philadelphia can be a lot better than they were last year, better coaching. Better coaching from Kellen Moore, better coaching from Vic Fangio, and I thought that Nick Sirianni, as the CEO, coach last night, he coached well and made some good decisions on some of the critical moments of the game. Let's now talk about Saquon Barkley. You are not dreaming. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. What a debut he had for the Birds last night. 24 carries, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 23 yards and a touchdown on that gorgeous dime from Jaylen Herz. Saquon is such a unique player. The jump cut ability, the vision, the explosion, the balance, the patience, the decisiveness, the power in which he can run with. Saquon is an all-around playmaker in this league, and throughout his entire career, he's averaged nearly 100 yards from scrimmage per game in his career. I think that's 4th among active players in the NFL, and he's played behind a terrible offensive line for New York, bad quarterback play, no complementary weapons, and before Brian Daboll, a pretty bad offensive system. But Saquon in this offense just gives Philadelphia a completely different dimension. He's the most talented running back that this Eagles team has had since LaShawn McCoy, who's going to go into the Eagles Hall of Fame later this year. And the New York Giants elected to not pay Saquon Barkley. Owner John Mara had said, I might not be able to sleep at night if Saquon plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, did he watch that game last night? And has anybody done a wellness check on John Mara? Because I'm not sure that he was able to sleep last night after seeing Saquon go off for a $109, 3 total touchdowns, a hat trick in his first game as an Eagle, and make plays on the ground, through the air, run successfully in between the tackles, to the perimeter, and catching balls out of the backfield. He is a dynamic weapon, and there are very few running backs in this league who can carve you up the way that Saquon can. And the category, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. I know that Josh Jacobs was great last night, especially in that second half, but he's not going to give you the receiving dimension that Saquon can. I'd put Breece Hall in that category. I mean, again, the point is there are very few running backs who can impact the game and be as multidimensional as Saquon Barkley. Let's talk some defense here. Zack Bonnell, best Eagles linebacking performance since fill in the blank. Nigel Bradham against the Carolina Panthers in 2017. Think about this. Zack Bonnell had 53 coverage snaps last year with the New Orleans Saints. In his career with the Saints, he was primarily used as an edge rusher, very inexperienced as an off-ball inside linebacker. So last night was pretty much his first game as a full-time player playing a new position at off-ball linebacker. And boy, did he pass the test with flying colors. A team-high 15 tackles, 12 of them were solo, 1 tackle for loss, 2 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. A tremendous performance, and him and Nakobe Dean combined to have a great linebacking performance as the duo for this Eagles team, and you can see why they beat out Devin White. They were causing destruction. They were making plays all over the field. They were playing fast, decisive, physical. Really impressive performances for Zack Bonnell and Nakobe Dean, and the Eagles are barely paying those players anything. And that fits the team-building, financial approach for Howie Roseman. He simply just does not really invest a lot of money into the linebacker position. But if the Eagles can shore up that second level on a defense that has some questions, with a remade secondary and a defensive line that needs to do a better job of getting pressure on the quarterback, and if Zack Bonnell and Nakobe Dean can play like that, this Eagles defense can make some strides. I was so impressed with how Zack Bonnell played at a new position. That's the Vic Fangio effect. Maximizing players, putting them in a position to succeed, and just having the foresight, foreseeing that Zack Bonnell can play in that role and be successful in that role. That's good coaching. That's good talent evaluation. As for Nakobe Dean, I said it last night during the post-game show. Be sure to check that out, the instant reaction up on the channel. Decisiveness, being able to re-diagnose plays with this good processing, and just has a good feel and a knack for being around the football. And in coverage against the run, like, he was so good last night. And the Eagles' bad defensive performance after that first quarter kind of overshadowed how good Nakobe Dean and Zack Bonnell were. Coan Mitchell looks as though the Eagles have a really legitimate corner on the outside. Without Isaiah Rodgers, Coan was on the outside, and he played really well. He went stride for stride with Christian Watson, who's a 4-3 guy. He made another really good play on the football a little bit later for a pass breakup. He plays with some aggressiveness and swagger. He has some really good technique. His 4.4 speed displayed, and he had 44 pass breakups the last 2 years at Toledo. You can see that he is just a ball hawk. And when Isaiah Rodgers comes back, Darius Slay on one side, probably Isaiah Rodgers on the other side. Avonte Maddox was terrible last night. You put Coan Mitchell in the slot, that helps the Eagles share up some things on the defensive side of the football. Now, I know that I had said the Eagles' defensive line struggled to generate some pressure. I did think that in some of the critical moments late in that game, we saw some players making plays. Brandon Graham, Jordan Davis, I thought popped a little bit last night from time to time. Jalen Carter, but Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter just need to be a little bit more consistent. The Eagles invested high draft picks in the first round on both of those players, and they just need a little bit more from them. The ability, the talent, the potential is there, and they flash it. They just need to string together more consecutive, consistent performances. Like the first play from scrimmage, I believe, for Green Bay, Jordan Davis just broke through the line and was able to have a good tackle for loss, or at least disrupt the play on a Josh Jacobs run. And then, Jalen Carter from time to time had some good plays and was able to push the pocket and move Jordan Love off his spot. But they just need to be a little bit more consistent. And if they can, positive sign for this Eagles team. What's interesting, but maybe not interesting if you've been following this team and seeing that Bryce Huff played deep into the second preseason game and was mysteriously not really utilized like a $17 million per year pickup, is that Bryce Huff in his Eagles debut played 30 of 67 snaps. That's 44.7%. One assisted tackle, no sacks, no pressures. So this is a player last year who did have 10 sacks for New York. He did play less than 50% of the snaps. Vic Fangio said he played him a lot in that second preseason game against New England because he's learning a new position. It could be part of adapting to that. Again, it's the first game. You knock off the rust. You knock off the cobwebs. You can't overreact too much, but these are things that we're going to have to monitor here as we move forward. Now, was the defense good in totality for all 60 minutes? No. But let me say this about this Eagles defense last night. Philadelphia does not win this game without the Eagles defense. What, Chase? What are you talking about? This is how. Jaylen Herz interception on the third play of the game. Second drive. Bad snap between Cam Jurgens and Jaylen Herz. The Green Bay Packers were in the red zone on their first 2 drives. And the Eagles held them to just 6 points. Now, if the Eagles give up some touchdowns there, game could be over. Could be blouses, right? But Philadelphia's ability inside the red area, and actually I think the Packers were actually in the red zone the first 3 drives of the game, if I'm not mistaken. But if the Eagles defense breaks there and they give up touchdowns, we're talking about a completely different game. So I know that the defense after the first quarter struggled a little bit. They ended strong. Zack Bonnell with the game-clinching sack, and then Jalen Carter with that pressure on Jordan Love, which was almost a sack on the play that he got injured, and then he threw it back to Josh Jacobs. But if it wasn't for the Eagles' defensive performance in that first quarter, the Eagles do not win this game. So a collective team performance here. And again, the Eagles play pretty poorly. They turn it over 3 times. They lose the turnover battle 3-1, and they still put up 34 points, and they win by 5. Again, you think about how they shore up some of these mistakes, they can be a really dangerous team. Lastly, does Jaylen Herz look slow? I don't know if he looks slow. Maybe he doesn't have quite the speed that he had his first couple of years in the NFL, but it just might be time, and I said this during the watch party last night, live during the game, it might be time to just crumble up the RPO game and throw it in the trash. Or better yet, light it on fire. Teams have just found out ways to stop that. The Packers did not let Jaylen Herz hurt them with his legs, whether it be on runs, whether it be on him breaking contain and trying to make plays out of structure. He will always roll right. That is something that I've been talking about the last couple of years. That is known now across the NFL. And now with this RPO game, teams just aren't collapsing on that play. They're just staying in their lane, and they're not letting Jaylen Herz get outside. And it just doesn't seem to be a part of this offense any longer. Now, can you run quarterback draw from time to time? Eagles did do that, and Hertz picked up, I think, 6 or 7 yards on that play. Yes. But the RPO game in which Hertz tries to get the edge to crash and go out to the outside, it just simply hasn't been working over the last, half season into this year, even going back to the early portions of last year. So some takeaways here on this Saturday that I wanted to get to right here on Eagles Now. I cannot wait to watch the full slate of NFL games tomorrow. Maybe I'll do some type of NFL recap here on the channel. I'm not really sure. I know that I always keep it Eagles-based here on the show. Obviously, it's an Eagles channel, but I do love talking NFL. So if you'd like some more of that content, type real one down below in the comment section. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Football is officially back, and the Birds are 1-0.